You're in another country, all your past is left behind you, your family is there, no one's gonna hold you back. Just chase whatever you want to chase. That's what I did. When you move to a different country, you should probably follow the country's culture or customs. You don't just act the way you want to act in another country. Like a lot of my friends say, oh, Singapore's a beautiful country, everyone's so nice. I'm like, yeah, they're nice because you're white. I'm like, I don't belong in either place. Either place I go to, I feel like I'm just here. Like I don't even feel like this is my home. So I don't feel like I have a home. I see construction workers eating steak in fancy restaurant with their construction vests. And I was like, what the hell is going on? Like even I can't afford a $30, $40 steak, and what's going on? Don't stick to Asians. Like, and if you're an Asian, okay? Like, I'm not saying be racist and no.
Welcome to our channel, Baenedict. It's great to have you here.
Very happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
To start off, could you tell us a bit about yourself?
So my name is Baenedict. Been in Australia for about 6 or 7 years now. I was born in Malaysia, moved to Singapore when I was 9. So I grew up in Singapore after that. And then I came to Australia when I was 21 years old. Yeah, after my national service in Singapore, we had to do 2 years of mandatory national service serving the army. So after that, I came here straight away for my university.
Oh yeah, what made you decide to move from Singapore to Australia?
I think since I was young, my parents, my dad specifically, has always talked about going overseas for experience and just expanding their mind, seeing what's out there. That's one of the big reasons. So actually, since I was very young, this thought of traveling overseas for some study or some sort of work experience has always been there. So it is not a foreign thing that suddenly came up. It's just, I always knew that this part was going to come in some form. I think also part of it is because of the Singapore work culture where it's so focused on, in school it's so focused on results, and then in work people work overtime all the time. They say work-life balance kind of thing. There's no work-life balance there. So in me, I also felt like I would love to get out of this kind of system. Yeah, a combination of all of that. Yeah, study, seeing a new place, that kind of culture where it's always just work, study, results, you know. Yeah, that's why I came here.
Yeah, you explained that very well, but I'm looking for the specific, the particular thing. What are you chasing? Why did you come here?
Good question. So I think in general, a lot of people migrate, I think, to escape something bad, or I'm quite lucky in that sense. If I didn't migrate, my life is not horrible, but I think one of the big reasons why I'm staying now is because of what I do, which is magic. I'm a magician. There's a lot more opportunity, at least from how I see it. Australia is a lot bigger. There's a lot more opportunities to expand my business. Yeah, and that's the main reason why I'm staying here. Because I can pursue my dreams. I see a clearer path to my dream rather than going back to Singapore.
Now it's your turn. Tell us about your migration story. Start your comment with, I moved to this country because. I'll go first. I moved to Australia because of my PhD education. We'd love to read your comments and get to know you a bit better. Let's connect in the comments. So what type of visa did you come on? Is that student?
Yes, I came on a student visa. Yeah, I graduated 1.5 years ago and now I'm on a graduate visa. The graduate visa lasts maybe, I think mine is 4 or 5 years. It's a longer one, which I'm lucky to get. So I have 4 or 5 years to stay here, and if that expires, I would have to go back. But I'm currently now applying for my permanent residency. Hopefully it goes through smoothly and then I can stay here comfortably without worrying about my visa expiring or something.
Yeah, and hopefully soon
PR,
permanent
residency.
Yes, that's important. Yeah. What was the biggest challenge you encountered upon arriving here?
I remember the biggest thing that hit me was I've always lived with my parents. I think most of Asia is the same. It's not like a Western country where you leave home like at 18 maybe, you rent out a place or you stay yourself. It's like you stay with your parents all the way until possibly you get married and then you possibly move out. So I was with my parents the whole time, always someone around at home. But then moving here, I lived in a shared accommodation, so I had my own room, but I had a housemate. But then suddenly I had to do all of life just myself. Like every single thing. And I just realized, oh my gosh, like everything I have to is on me. Like I'm responsible for everything. If I get hurt, like there's no one, like I have to find a way to get my own self to the hospital or something. I don't know, but I didn't feel like, luckily I didn't feel homesick. I was happy, like I felt so free. That was the initial hit. It wasn't much, like I settled in quite quickly.
Yeah, what would you say about the biggest challenge of being in Australia?
Biggest challenge, I think, like I said previously, I feel like I'm quite lucky. Firstly, language. Singapore, everyone speaks English, so I have no problem with language. Because most people traveling to another country, or I have friends who are international students, they came over, it's like they have to learn English, I'm like, I don't have any of that problem. So I can just speak. I can understand everyone understands me. That's probably the biggest challenge, I think, to find a social group that fit in, that is not your own country's people. There's not Asians. Because I can find a social group super easily that are just Singapore groups, Malaysia groups, or some Asian groups. That's very easy to find. But I told myself I'm not gonna do that. Yeah, so because I didn't do that, it's very hard to socialize. At least that's how I felt. Yeah, so socialization is probably the biggest challenge, like fitting into the culture.
Did you bring anything meaningful with you when you moved here? Like any particular item or like something tangible?
I brought books. There's one of my favorite book, Man's Search for Meaning. I don't know if you've heard before, by Viktor Frankl. His concentration camp, you know, when the Nazis set up the concentration camp and everything, the wartime concentration camp. And Viktor Frankl was one of the guys who was in there, and he survived. So he wrote this book. But anyway, that's my favorite book, so I brought that book. But I don't have anything like clothes, that's it, nothing special. I don't have anything special, yeah.
Compared to your home country, maybe you can say which country is your home country first. What initially stood out as different? And in what way did it affect you?
Home country. Most people don't know that I was born in Malaysia. Most people just think, oh, Baenedict's from Singapore, which I don't really like also. I don't know. Yeah, it's hard. I don't know. Identity is a big thing. I never really thought about my identity much until like a little older, but because my dad is Indian, my mom is Chinese, people often ask me as a kid like, oh, do you feel like Indian or are you Chinese? As a kid, I always just say like, oh, I'm both.
Yeah.
And people laugh, they say, oh, this kid. And I just said it like, I never think also, but when I was like in my teenage years, then I thought of the question actually, like people often ask me, but I don't really think about it, but what do I actually feel? For the first time I asked myself, I remember when I was a teenage, and I actually don't relate to Indian, I don't relate to Chinese, I don't relate to anything. And I think that is what a lot of the mixed race people feel also. I don't know, I just assume. Because you join all the events, Chinese New Year or like Deepavali, like all the cultural events, but everywhere I go, I feel like a foreigner. So I don't feel like I belong anywhere. So same thing with Malaysia, Singapore. I don't belong in either place. Either place I go to, I feel like I'm just here. Like I don't even feel like this is my home. So I don't feel like I have a home.
So when you compare Singapore with Australia, what's the biggest difference?
Oh yes. I'll say this first and then I'll explain it, because I think people watching it will feel like, what are you talking about? But like, I see construction workers eating steak in fancy restaurant with their construction vests. And I was like, what the hell is going on? Like even I can't afford a $30, $40 steak, and what's going on? And then I realized, oh, construction workers earn a lot of money. Yeah. Because in Singapore or in Malaysia, construction workers are the people who are the lowest paid people in the entire, is like unfortunately not paid well, and sometimes even like below minimum wage. They're like living in these very bad conditions and suffering like without much money. They're sending money back to India, usually foreign workers. Like even Singaporeans don't do construction. It's just, they feel like it's too low. So when I saw a construction worker wearing their vest, eating steak like it's just like their lunch break, I was like, what is going on? And then I just looked around and I was like, oh man. And then like when I talked to some other Australians, and then they realized, oh, like, so they're called tradies here, all the people in the trades. Like they're earning more money than most people in like even an office job. And because in my head, like wearing the vest, I feel like it's a bit shameful. I don't know. Like I just feel like, because back in the country, you feel like you wear a vest, a construction worker or something, which is not very respected. So I would imagine people would take off the vest at least, but they just wore the vest and eat steak. So it just shows how, which I loved actually. I was very happy when I saw that. I was shocked, but I was very happy because it just shows how Australia, the gap is not big between, like you are this and I am this, and so I look down on you, or this person has a better, higher up the ranks. Everyone is almost equal. Everyone is respected equally, which I love. That's one beautiful thing about Australia, I think. Yeah.
Baenedict, let's talk about the language. You said that you're confident in English, but what about the Aussie English?
Yes, Aussie English is something everyone will have to learn at some point. You have to understand. Yeah, I'm still learning. I'm still coming across things that I don't understand. I've always have to ask a friend or something like, what does that even mean? The funny thing is, very often, like when we're in Asia, we have our own, we call Singlish. In Singapore, we call it Singlish.
Yeah.
So like every country would have some sort of their bad way of saying English. So speaking Singlish for so long, almost my whole majority of my life, they don't feel confident speaking English outside in a Western country because they feel like, oh, my English is not good enough. So I felt that also. So I was very conscious, and I was trying to make sure my Singlish don't slip out. I try my best, but sometimes it slips out. Sometimes in Singapore, we say things like la at the end of our sentence. Like in a more casual situation, we say la, or things like meh, leh, like there's random Singlish words. But I feel like it's embarrassing if I say it here. Like people will think, oh, this guy's uneducated, maybe. So I was very conscious. I'm like, okay, I have to speak proper English. So I just speak normally. And what's interesting is the Australians say I have better English than them, which I was like, whoa, I would never imagine, because growing up, you always think, oh, like the Western people speak the best English, American, UK, Australians, or like they speak super well. And you feel embarrassed. Like Asians, we always feel like we're less than the Western people. I don't know how other countries feel, but I think I can speak for a big part of Asia. We always feel like the Western people are like higher than us, because all like in the corporate world, all the big boss, they're all like white. I don't know if I can say white people here. They're all Western people, right? They're like white people. So you always think white means you're a big boss, every time you're on TV, the celebrities, they're all white. They're all Western people, basically. White, black, whatever, but US, right? They're from US, UK, Australia. So they always people from the Western countries always feel like they're higher up, and we're like, oh, later I can tell about this, another thing about how Australians who go to Singapore for holiday, like a lot of my friends say, oh, Singapore's a beautiful country, everyone's so nice. I'm like, yeah, they're nice because you're white. I'm like they think that all the countries, and I'm like, when I go there, they don't even say thank you. They don't say, but you're like, oh, thank you, sir, thank you. I'm like, yeah, because you're white, of course. So yeah, because in Singapore we look up to them. So that's another tangent, I can talk about that. But so I was shocked when they say my English is better than them, and I realized it makes sense because every country has their own bad English, and Aussie have their own shortcuts and bad English. So they see someone speaking just normal English, just without any bad English words like the shortcuts, like Aussie shortcuts, they think, oh, this guy speaks really good English, but it's just English, it's just normal English. Yeah. Yeah.
What's your favorite Aussie idiom or expression?
I'm not a fan of all these things, so I try my best not to use them. But maybe it's a problem because then I don't fit in because I don't use them. If I can, I try not to say any of those. Maybe breakfast, they call it brekkie, arvo, afternoon, I think. Or McDonald's, people say Macca's.
Macca's.
But I don't even eat McDonald's. So I see a lot of international people come here, they start using mate, but I have not used mate. Yeah.
You're not saying cheese mate?
Yeah.
Cheese mate?
Yeah. I think it's just me, I'm a bit stubborn. I refuse to go into and fit into a culture. It may be a problem, I don't know, but maybe it's a good thing. I refuse to say, I just want to be myself. I don't want to change because I'm in a different country, I'm with a different group of friends. I just refuse to do it. In my head, I'm like, I'm not gonna do it. I don't want to let myself say these things and let myself go in that way. I'm just more, some people say I'm too rigid, but I don't know, I like it this way. Yeah. I don't have a specific idiom or anything that I like. Yeah.
So in your experience, are opportunities here equally accessible to individuals from diverse background, or have you noticed any inequalities?
I personally have not experienced much racism, I think.
We didn't say racism.
Good point. Let me think why I brought this up. No, because I think there's a stereotype. Australia is racist, which I think to some extent it might be. I have friends everywhere experiencing racism, but I'm like, I haven't experienced it. I can't speak much of it. I can only speak of my experience, and luckily, I haven't really experienced much racism. I remember starting out when I first came to Australia. I don't know if it's a thing, but I think it's a thing of like the anti-racism, like the opposite of racism, which is people are too nice because you're a foreigner. Because you're a foreigner, they try to be too nice to you, and you then feel like an outcast because they're specially nice to you. They're so afraid of being racist that they try so hard to be nice that it becomes a form of racism in some way, because it's like too woke, I think. Like they're too scared of being like racist that they'll be so nice to you that I'm like, just chill. I'm just a human. Like, you don't have to be so nice to me. Like, yeah, so that sometimes is annoying. I'm like, you don't have to smile so much, just be normal, just talk to me normally. But opportunities wise, I think Aussies definitely get a better opportunity compared to international person. First layer is, of course, there's all the like visa status and all these things. Because of your student visa, you get less chance of getting a job, because the employers want someone who can be here for long. They won't just like go back to their country. So if that aside, like if you're not talking about visa, if you're talking about you're just a foreigner, you're settled down, PR or citizen, forget about all this technical stuff where, like all those things. That aside, the other thing that is a barrier, I think, is a lot of times, like I can imagine if I'm an employer, I want to employ someone who can relate to my customers, who can talk to other stakeholders. And the person who can do this is the person in the culture. So in that sense, once again, you're disadvantaged slightly, but it depends on the job. That's why as well. So but for me, I feel like my results was quite good in uni and everything was good, but my Aussie friends got jobs a lot faster and easier than me. So I ended up still doing all right. So because there's a business profit, you don't care. It's not about what, right? It's just, I'll just pick. So I wouldn't count that as racism or any prejudice or something. It's just like, I just need someone who can do the job, and this is the person who can. So yeah.
Do you think it's possible to leave a financial... Because he's recording, so that's why.
I'm recording with 3 cameras.
Yeah, but the third one becomes a problem now. All right. Do you think it's possible to live a financially comfortable life here in Australia?
Specifically Australia, definitely, yeah. And like I said earlier as well, the reason I came here is so that I can pursue magic. And I think in my experience at least, it might be easier for me from my limited knowledge to do business here, because I think less competition compared to Singapore. It's not too hard to find a job, I think, if you have the right qualifications. Yeah. So financially, I think you'll be pretty all right.
Good. Yeah, great news. I'm going to ask a personal question now. What was your most, yes, I live in Australia moment?
Maybe.
I never said that.
You know?
I'm living here for 2 years. I never said
Yeah.
I live here.
I said that when
said that
No,
every
but
day.
I said that when I see the kangaroos.
Oh.
Yeah.
So one is when it got cold, because Singapore is a tropical place. It's always hot throughout the whole year. So it's like, whoa, oh man, the weather is cold. Oh, it's cool. I'm like, you feel like you're in this cool place because it's just cool. In Asia, you go to a Western country, you feel like, oh, I'm in Australia. Oh, it's cool. The weather is changing, the plants change. Yeah. I think Australia as well, country is very beautiful. There's so many beautiful things to see. I think just even the buildings are different from Singapore. So just seeing the buildings, the older buildings. I think Adelaide, they call Adelaide the city of churches or something.
Yes.
So the churches are super beautiful. It's Victorian style, old buildings. So that itself, whenever I walk around, I'm whoa, I'm in Australia kind of feeling. So that, yeah. So actually, I felt a lot weather change when I walk around. When people, the other thing is when people greet each other in the bus stop. You'll never see this in Singapore. People will ignore you purposefully if they see you, but in Australia, people start conversation, you can say hi. So those are little things I'm whoa, yeah, I'm in Australia, it's a cool place, yeah. So yeah.
What's the biggest difference between the you who arrived here and the you today?
Yeah. When I first came to Australia, I had a switch that flipped in my head, and I was like, I need to survive. So I need to make friends, I need to know people, and I suddenly became a social butterfly. I had Aussie friends telling me in a just general casual conversation, they introduced him as like, oh, he's a social butterfly. And I got shocked because I was like, I was never a social butterfly. And now a Western person is telling me I'm a social butterfly in their country, and it hit me so hard and it made me reflect. I went home, I'm like, oh my gosh. After that, once I feel comfortable, I stopped doing that. And now I'm back to what I am normally, which is I don't socialize much.
What would be the 3 pieces of advice you would give to someone thinking about migrating?
I try not to give advice when I can, because every few years I look back at myself and I'm like, what am I talking about? I'm afraid that if I give advice, next year I'll look back, I'm like, what the hell is he talking about? Like thinking I know everything, but I don't know anything. I would say the advice I was given by one of my cousins who studied in the US, and I think is great, is don't stick to Asians. And if you're an Asian, like, I'm not saying be racist and no. I'm saying, as in like, because we're Asian, he said don't stick to Asians. What he's saying is like, if you're from somewhere else, don't stick to your people, because that is your comfort zone. If you go speak to someone from Singapore, you're just like, oh, you don't have to feel scared or anything, but that's when you stop growing also. Like, that's when you stop experiencing the culture, that's when you stop making friends. That's probably one of the biggest thing. I think maybe I'll leave it as that. That is probably the biggest thing, yeah.
Yeah, totally agree.
And 2?
Maybe, yeah, okay, let me think then. Okay.
Insisting.
The director is insisting of advice. 2 more advice. Okay. Must follow the direction of the director.
Yeah.
Or he'll scold me behind the camera. Maybe I'll just say what I have done so that I don't have to give people advice, but I'll say what I've done that helped me. One is not sticking to your comfort zone of your culture. Second one, you're in another country, all your past is left behind you, your family is there, no one's gonna hold you back. Just chase whatever you want to chase. That's what I did. I went hard at what I wanted to do. Identity is a big thing. Who you identify as is who you become. If you change your identity, you're going to become that. But it's so hard to change the identity if everyone around you says this is your identity. So I'm now in a different country. I can decide what I want to be. If I decide I'm going to be this person, this is who I am, I'm successful, I'm going to build a business, this is what I'm going to do. But if I say that in my old country, people already have their own perceived thing of who you are and they'll put you in a box. You must be very, very mentally strong to break out of that. But if in a new country, it's very easy because no one knows you. You can start all over again. And you can build your identity that way, exactly how you want it to be. You can craft it. That's the second thing. Third thing, maybe I'll say this. This could be interesting. People often are not happy when I say this, but I'll say it.
Yeah, go on.
I'll say it to the camera, and the director approves, so I'll say it. I think when you move to a different country, you should probably follow the country's culture or customs. You don't just act the way you want to act in another country. So for example, I see religious groups or race groups congregating in areas, playing loud music or religious music even, doing religious activity or rituals. Religion aside, even just cultural things like taking over spaces that are not yours, I think, because your culture is from your country, but it's nothing wrong to be a multicultural place, it's all right, but to the extent where you don't respect the boundaries of the people in Australia, I don't like that. I try my best to not be part of these things. I try my best to not do that because people often say, why do people not like foreigners? That's why. They come over to your country and you do this. So I'm very aware I'm a foreigner and I have to be respectful of what people here do. Like people say, go to Rome, do what the Romans do. I think maybe the third thing I'll leave it with is respect the culture and respect the people here.
That's a fantastic answer. Yeah. Do you think you will ever go back in your home country one day?
Yeah, my wife is from Singapore as well, recently married. Her whole life is there. She's going to migrate over just because I'm here, so very grateful for it. She's going to leave everything behind in about 2-3 months, come over, join me. So because of that, like her whole life, family and friends, everything is in Singapore. I'm very sure we will spend a big part of our future time in Singapore, in Malaysia, where my family is, relatives. I'm very sure that at some point, I won't migrate back, I think, unless some sort of retirement. In my ideal retirement, I'll be just everywhere, wherever I need to be. Maybe 3 months here, 3 months there, 6 months here. I don't have a sense of belonging. Like, I don't miss Singapore, I don't miss Malaysia, I don't miss things. It's more for my wife, and I think it's nice. Like, whenever I go back, it feels like a holiday, so we would go back freely. I think happy to spend 1-2 months there with family, friends. So definitely going back, but I don't think I will fully migrate back and leave everything here, because I still like some of the things here, like things like the culture, the freedom here. So definitely I will stay on here, I think.
If you were to choose a single photograph to represent Singapore, what would it be?
And Singapore is so small. There is this famous photo of like all the tourist attractions, or like the main parts, like the Malayan in Singapore and the Durian building, like the spikes, like the casino, the boat, Marina Bay Sands. Like, if you Google it, you'll get what I mean. Like, everywhere when you think of Singapore, that's the picture. So if you think of Singapore, a picture, if you're asking me a picture, that picture comes up, because there's an angle where you can catch all of these iconic things in Singapore. And that's the most like advanced part as well. So people always, for advertising Singapore, that is the photo. So if you're talking about that, that might be it. But if you're talking about a more personal one, of course, I don't relate to any of that. I don't relate to the tourist attraction or anything. More personal, it will be maybe in a coffee shop in Singapore, like, because that's another quite, I think, Singaporean thing where, you know, food courts, you know, you don't have food courts here really. In Singapore, we call it like kopitiams and like street food courts, and not street food court, but street food courts. Yeah, I think me eating there would be kind of like a more personal one, or at home in one of the Chinese gardens. So my home is opposite Chinese garden, so maybe around there. Yeah, but if you're talking for someone who doesn't know Singapore, maybe, yeah, that iconic thing where all the famous buildings are, that would be it. Yeah.
The last question is there anything else you would like to add?
Okay, so there's this one story of my grandma coming over to Australia that I think is quite interesting, maybe just to give a perspective thing. So like how I shared about tradies. We don't even call them tradies, but people doing the trades like construction, plumbing, they're seen as the lower class people in Asia. So when my grandma came over here, she was shocked when she saw like cleaners who are white, right? People who are Western people, or like construction people, like digging holes and everything, who are Western, like white people. This is not right. She's like, no, like, can I help them? Like, can we get an Asian to do this? Like, she's Asian herself, but she wants an Asian to go do that job. But like, because she feels it's so wrong, like, no, they should be in this fancy office, like they are my boss, like, because she grew up very poor also, like any big boss is all white, all Western people, America, US. So she was like, no, like she was telling my dad, like, no, we have to get an Asian to do this, like we can't. And I was like, but that just shows how like different the country is, or like, actually it doesn't show how different Australia is. It shows how in Singapore, at least, or a big part of Asia, we look up to white people or like Western countries so much, like, and I don't think it's good. Yeah, but it's just what it is. But yeah, it's like my moment of seeing a construction worker eating steak, and she can't understand that in the Western countries there's still poor white people, there's rich white people. The country is just normal. For them, they don't see white, they're just them. Like, this is Australians, or like, she just cannot understand it. It's just a different generation. But yeah.
That's a great story.
Yeah. Other than that, I think, I don't think I missed out anything. You asked quite good questions.
Thank you so much for coming here. It's great to listen your story. So you're very open and honest. It was great.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you. You guys made it easy as well. I mean, you asked really good questions, and I feel very comfortable. So thank you.
Pleasure.
Do you like my directing style?
Maybe. No, Yes, you direct very well.
Before you go, if you made it this far, I think you liked the video. So go ahead, drop a comment below, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. If you'd like to support us a little more, hit the join button and become a member. Thanks for your support.